its essence, is often a political tool. Nations and leaders clashing over power, resources, and influence. But when these conflicts turn inward, becoming civil wars or ideological crusades, they transform into something far more insidious. They become personal. It's no longer just about territory or governance. It's about survival, identity, and deeply ingrained beliefs. One side begins to see the other not just as an enemy, but as a monster that must be eradicated. In today's episode of Thinking to Think, we are going to dive deep into the heart-wrenching stories of conflict that have ravaged South Sudan and Uganda over the past few decades. We'll explore how these wars, driven by political, ethnic, and ideological divides, have become deeply personal and devastatingly ugly. And to bring a human face to these stories, we'll be joined by Mansuke, a refugee who has witnessed the horrors of these conflicts firsthand. Now, a little backstory. In South Sudan, decades of conflict between the northern and southern regions culminated in the First and Second Sudanese civil wars. This was around 1955 to 1972, then 1983 to 2005. These wars were marked by brutal campaigns from the northern, predominantly Muslim government against the southern, largely Christian and Animist population. Forced conversions, destruction of churches, and mass killings became horrifyingly common. The Second Civil War alone resulted over 2 million deaths and millions more displaced. As the Comprehensive Peace Agreement was signed in 2005, leading to South Sudan's independence in 2011, many hoped for peace, but the newly formed nation quickly descended into internal conflict. Political rivalries, ethnic tensions, and power struggles led to further violence, turning neighbors and even family members against each other. The dream of a peaceful, independent South Sudan was shattered, replaced by a nightmare of civil war and ethnic cleansing. In Uganda, the story is equally horrible. The Lord's Resistance Army, led by Joseph Kony, emerged in the late 1980s, claiming to fight for a state based on the Ten Commandments. Yet, their actions were anything but holy. The LRA campaign of terror included mass abductions, killings, and mutilations. Children were forced to becoming soldiers and sex slaves, and entire communities were decimated. Kany's perverse use of religious rhetoric to justify his atrocities turned what might have been seen as political rebellion into a deeply personal and traumatic experience for millions of Ugandans. The LRA's reign of terror extended beyond Uganda, reaching into South Sudan, the Central African Republic, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. And while the Ugandan government fought against the LRA, other militant groups with Islamic fundamentalist motives, like the Allied Democratic Forces, added to the region's instability and suffering. These conflicts have left scars that will take generations to heal. The political ambitions and ideological fervor that fueled these wars have resulted in unimaginable personal suffering. One side deems the other a monster, stripping away the humanity that binds us all. And we can see similarities in brutal attacks with the ongoing conflict across the world today. It is important to remember that war, in its essence, is not only a political tool. It's ugly, unpredictable, and always contains sadness, suffering, and despair. And war is always relatively the same unless it's ideologically and personally driven. Today, we are honored to have Mansuke with us. Mansuke is a refugee who has lived through the brutality of these conflicts. His story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and enduring hope for peace. Through his eyes, we will see the true cost of these wars, not just in terms of political change or territorial gains, but in the countless lives torn apart, the communities destroyed, and the deep wounds that remain. Join us as we listen to Mansukh's story and reflect on the lessons we can learn from these tragic chapters in South Sudan and Uganda's histories. Let us remember that behind every political or ideological conflict are real people like Mansukh, whose lives are forever changed by the horrors of war.
All right. Thank you so much, Mansook, for sitting with me today and this episode of Thinking to Think. This is the first interview, and hopefully of many, many more. But without further ado, Mansook, please tell our audience who you are, your background, and what what motivates you as far as when you come here into the United States. So please tell us your story.
Thank you, Mike, for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Mansuk Milton. I'm a father to two boys. Jeremy is 3 and Jesse is 5. Currently, I live in Uganda as a refugee. Not sure if you know that South Sudan have been in war for over 2 decades, and I was born around that time. The war started in 1983. I was born just 3 years after the war started in 1986. Uh, I always tell people that I was born in war, raised in war, and I've only known war.
Mm,
My generation is labeled as war generation. I've experienced every sad things that war brings. When you talk about pain, I experienced that. When you talk about trauma, I experienced that. When you talk about loss, I experienced that. I lost my dear brother when he was 15 in the war. When you talk about hunger, I've experienced that. When you talk about sickness, I've experienced that throughout my life. I can say, the South Sudan war uh, took my childhood. When you talk about pain at home, I experienced domestic violence. Um, my dad joined the army when he was 14 years, and uh, you understand the trauma that comes with being a soldier in such kind of environment. So he brings that trauma back home,
mm,
and I've experienced uh, that trauma, the pain. I've watched my mom being beaten every night as a child. When my dad is home, we sometimes we run outside home or we hide under the bed. And so I've never experienced or being in a space where I can be loved as a child, where I can dream, a space where I can be myself, a safe space. I never experienced that, and not until in 2000, 5 6, I I was able to overcome that. Uh, I could say, having the right mentors around me, my faith really, God really helped me to walk through that. And in 2016, I got wedded, and I was looking for a woman. I knew clearly what I wanted in a woman, and I was looking for. I'm passionate about young people, passionate about my country, passionate about serving my people and passionate about young people. And I was like, this is the kind of woman that I need so that we can work together. And I got married. I found this lady. There was alignment in purpose and in passion. Uh, just few months after we got wedded, South Sudan was not safe, for us.
Pause. Just 1 second. And I'm so sorry to interrupt. This is the middle. Currently at my school. Currently, so apologies for any background noise you might be hearing. I'm sorry, Mansu. Please continue.
Yeah, so there was alignment in purpose and passion. So I married this beautiful lady. We got married in 2016, I think January 9th. Just few months after our wedding, when we were now thinking about um, building the foundation of our marriage and all that, war came. And the war was more tribal. We have about 64 tribes in South Sudan, and our conflict is along tribal lines where we begin to kill each other. So it was not now safe, for us. So we had to run for our life to find safety in Uganda. And this is now reaching in Uganda. It's a new life.
And when did this conflict happen? Do you remember the year?
So the conflict started. Just to take you back, South Sudan has been in war for 2 decades, from 1983 until 2025, when there was a ceasefire.
Wait, 25?
2005, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
2005.
It's okay.
So 2005, there was a ceasefire.
I remember that.
Yeah, comprehensive peace agreement. So the war stopped, fighting stopped, there was ceasefire. So we went for referendum in 2011, and over 90% of South Sudanese voted for independence, that we want to be on an independent country from the north. In 2011, July 9th, we celebrated our independence. South Sudan became, I think, the newest country in the world. And then, just after 3 years, after our independence, after that celebration, joy of finally being independent, having that freedom, having that peace, our leaders went into fighting between themselves because of power. And that was in 2013.
Wow.
So that war became bloody because it was between two leaders, but now it went tribal.
Yeah.
It was now between tribes. And then in 2013 until 2013 to 2016.
Yeah, they say, if you look at the history,
Yeah.
and the history of wars in general,
Yeah.
Usually the bloodiest ones in battles are the ones that when it's internal, when it's civil, when it's a civil war, when there's internal conflict, because there becomes almost like it becomes personal.
Yeah.
It's not so much like, oh, your country is doing this and my country is doing that, or it's more brother and brother.
You're
And
right.
it becomes it's
Civil.
more intimate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that must have
True, Mike. Yeah, it's bloody. I think South Sudanese started thinking, do we do the right decision to come out of north, because now we're fighting each other. Should we go back to North Sudan? Funny enough, some of the South Sudanese actually ran back to North Sudan for safety. Yeah, so the war became unsafe for us. We moved to Uganda and started a new life. You came to a new country with nothing, so you have to struggle to get food. You are in the tent. There's no house. So we're starting a new life. Very difficult, and we struggle with that. The young people who are about in South, the refugees that moved to Uganda, about over 1 million refugees,
Wow.
and over 60% of this population are young people below the age of 30.
Wait, so over
60%
60% was
of 1 million are young people below the age of 30. So these young people are traumatized. These young people lack purpose. These young people that are involved in early marriages. There is high rate of early pregnancy, high rate of early marriages in the camps because they're idle. There are issues around gangs. There are issues around stealing.
I was gonna ask
Yeah.
about that. So, I mean, 13 years old. I mean, this is just from my experience in education. That that's very impressionable
Yeah.
age,
Yeah.
and the wrong person
Yeah.
with lack of better word, evil intentions
Yeah.
can change
Yeah.
the actions and behaviors
Right.
of a 13-year-old
Right.
or younger.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you're saying if we are looking at a million, that's 60%.
Yeah.
That's 600,000.
Yeah.
And they're just scattered in the wind type
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so these are the
Were
this-
these numbers like? Do you have an idea how you got these numbers? Just I want to make sure we're in the up and up in things, and I don't mean to give.
Yeah, I
pushback.
got this from the UNHCR
Oh wow.
who
Okay.
are hosting the refugees in Uganda.
Okay.
The population of South Sudan is about 10 million, and it's 60% are
Wow.
young people. So, and the people who are really impacted by this war are women and young people. So, yeah, and Mike, it's tough for these young souls, young adults in the camps, and they are the future of South Sudan. I always say there is no way you can rewrite the story of South Sudan without investing in these young people.
That's true.
And
Same could be said about any country.
any country. And so I felt like I felt the burden. I started asking myself, how can I serve my country? How can I be a part of rebuilding my country? And so I started having this conversation. I felt like, the pain that I went through as a child gave me a purpose. I felt like I was refined, I was equipped by all the experiences that I went through. I was transformed by that. And out of that, I got a purpose, I got a vision, I got a mission to serve my country, and especially to engage the young people who are the future of my country. My two sons who are now born in Uganda, they're refugees. And I was like, I want to create a new South Sudan that one day my kids can go back and feel safe. I want to be part of that. And last year I started an organization. My wife and I, we left our jobs that we were part of, and we start an organization called YENET, YENET. So YENET means YENET is in my heart language. It means hope. When you go to the camps right now, the camp is in a state of hopelessness, where people have lost hope, people have lost their dreams. So I was there also. I was in that state of hopelessness. So I felt like it's now my opportunity. It's now my turn to give this young generation, these refugees, brothers and sisters, the hope that amid these challenges, this trauma, amid this pain, you can still overcome it. So Yenet, through the power of sport, football, I don't know how you call it, soccer.
Yeah.
We
Everyone in the world calls it football.
Football,
We Americans have to be have to be special. So we call it football.
Yeah. So through the power of sport, football, we engage these young people. We create spaces for these young people uh, to to be loved, to be cared for, to mentor them, you know, to find healing, from them trauma. But more importantly, also, I shared earlier that we have 64 tribes and we don't like each other. So we are using the power of sport, football, to engage these different tribes to work together to build that social cohesion, to have this conversation, say, hey, we're all here. We need to work together. We need to love each other. We need to go back home as brothers and sisters. We need to look beyond the tribal lines. We need to celebrate our differences. So Yenet is using the power of sport to raise a generation of servant leaders who will one day go back home and rewrite the story, the narrative of our country. Yeah, yeah.
I'm definitely want to know more about Yenin and for any way that we can support
Yeah.
your organization. But before we get to that, I'm curious how we met through, and this for the audience, through a training thing that we did with the River Phoenix Center for Peace building. And if you don't know what that organization is, it's an international organization. It's actually named after the actor River Phoenix, who was created by Joaquin and Rivers' mother.
Yeah.
And it's a great organization of just peace building. How did you come along
Okay.
and met the River
Yeah.
Phoenix group?
Yeah. So back in 2021, my wife shared with me this link. So when I checked, he said, "Hey, Milton, this program fits you very well." So I checked this program. So the U.S. State Department have this program called Community Solutions Program. So what they do, they bring community leaders, agents of change around the world to the states for 4 months to study about peace, to learn about peace, learn about education, governance. So you apply for it, and you go through that process. They interview you, and they bring you over to the state. So I saw peace. I was like, my country needs peace. For me to talk about peace, for me to build peace, I need to learn more. You cannot give out of an empty cup. So I applied for that program, went through interviews, and one day in February 2022, I got this acceptance letter. Hey, congratulations, Milton. We selected 120 fellas out of 8,000 people that the people that applied, from 80 countries. I was like, wow, this is a big deal. I didn't know. So and I chose peace, and I look around. They connected me to River Phoenix Center of Peace Building and other organizations. So I had an interview with Jeffrey and the team. So after listening to them, I was like, wow, I think this is alignment. This is a good match. So I say yes, and they also say yes to have me, and that's how I got to the States for the first time.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's how we met.
Yeah, and then through that, and then we met. Yeah.
And for most of you that don't know, this has been this idea of setting up this interview has been a long time in the making.
Yeah.
So we're finally doing this. So you started. When did you start the Yenit?
I started Yenit right after I went back from the States. That was last year.
Okay.
Yeah, last year. So Yenit is registered in Uganda and also registered in South Sudan. Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff you learned from the River Phoenix Center, you're gonna take
Yeah.
that you're using that
Hmm.
those skill
So
sets to
they
now.
partner with us.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great.
And they partner with us. So it's, yeah. So Yenet, if you check that out, yenet.org.
Unit.org.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna spell it out again. Make
Yeah.
sure I got it, but
Yeah.
make sure also the listeners got it. So it's YENET.org.
Yeah.
Yenet.org. Um, is there, and through that website they can donate or
Yes.
anything?
You can easily donate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and part of the reason why I'm here in the States is, to share my story like this, and then also with different people to raise support in helping us to bring hope to this broken part of the world.
Mm.
Uh, yes, and that's why I'm in the States. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I want to, unless you have more to add, and by
Yeah.
all means, you can. A lot of the stuff that you mentioned, kind of, you know, I'm always looking at history,
Yeah.
and I always have this. Maybe it's the way my brain works, but I always try to look at, because history has a tendency to rhyme
Yeah.
in many ways, not repeat, but rhyme, as they say. And I look at a lot of the stuff that's been going on currently with the other wars, like Ukraine. Excuse the background noise. I guess the cleaning people are doing that.
Yeah.
Ukraine, the war currently with Israel and Palestinians, and I think of the people, and I can't help but really like the traumas and the experiences you had and how some people are living that right now.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of the things that you used to kind of cope with the things that you witnessed in your life? Because I remember when I was growing up, hearing about the wars and child soldiers, and that was a big deal back in the 90s, with children being recruited in different countries in Africa during all these conflicts, for they're just filling them up with drugs and then to fight in wars. Um, what what are some of the things that you don't mind sharing? What you saw, and also like a little bit more detail on that, as well as what was your, as you were growing up, what were some of your strategies on coping with your experiences? Because I'm sure there's got to be someone out there that may be listening to this and they may be in a difficult situation.
Yeah.
Um, by all means, is there anything you want to share in like detail, or anything that you feel like you want to share, that for those of that may feel hopelessness?
Yeah. Yeah, I think how I overcame that. Of course, one is having the right support system, like the right people, uh, mentors who created that space.
Mm.
For me to. I was struggling with trust issue. I could not trust people.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and but having the right mentors, the right company, gave me the space. They were just there to laugh at me. They're there to listen to me. They're there to care for me. I feel like that helps me to trust them. And then I started really opening up, sharing, and that's where my healing started, as I begin to share, as I begin to find people that I trust, and I can share, what I went through. So it goes back, ensure that you have someone really you trust and can give you that space to listen, and you can share, pour your heart. That really helped me a lot. But also my faith in God. Yeah.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
that's fantastic,
Yeah.
because I know that's a
Yeah.
big thing.
Yeah.
And I too
Yeah.
believe that and I don't know. I mean, clearly, not every listener is going to agree with this, and that's fine. We can peacefully disagree, but I believe that God's a big,
Yeah.
important thing
Yeah.
in
In,
my life,
yeah.
and should be, in my opinion, should be in
Yeah.
everybody's life,
Yeah.
because you can be a critical thinker. You can think
Yeah.
logically. You can look at certain things and
Yeah.
facts, but there's certain things of that you just hope and faith
Yeah.
is just something that
Yeah.
nothing could truly replace
Yeah.
that.
That. Yeah. I
You
think
know.
it, and that's uh, the same experience, because when I talk about these people, this support system, I can strongly say these people were divinely brought to me by God,
Mm.
and so God used these people to really bring this healing, this hope to me. Yeah. So narrowing it down, really, it's my
Yeah.
faith in God that helped me to overcome this, and the hope that we have Him in Him, and now we are sharing that, bringing that hope to our brothers and sisters. Yeah.
I can't help but I was trying to take some notes, and I can't help but see and notice something. During this civil war, your wife was pregnant, or was she? Oh, going was she like right
She,
before she was pregnant?
she she got pregnant in Uganda when we moved
Oh,
to
okay,
Uganda.
okay, that's
Yeah.
okay. Because I was like, that's rough. Because
Rough, yeah, rough,
yeah.
rough, yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
And I
even
think,
that you were a refugee. You were
yeah,
living in
yeah,
tents
in the
and.
tents, and yeah, but after we got to job,
Hmm.
and then we moved out of the camp
Hmm.
and started thinking about having babies, and so that helped us to take care of pay rent, take care of our basic needs,
Hmm.
and at least be out of the camp. But my mom, my siblings are still in the camp, but in 2023, last year, we felt like we have to leave our jobs and start unit, because we feel like this is how we want to really play a part in
Mm.
building our country, and so we are now dealing with the transition of not having jobs,
Yeah.
and now
It's a
focusing on building.
sacrifice.
Yeah, it's a big sacrifice for our
And you had,
country. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's a lot of sacrifice,
Yeah.
because also you have to worry about your children
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So I commend you for that.
Thank you, Mike.
I hope Yenet expands,
Yeah.
because there are more and more refugees
Yeah.
because of these conflicts that are
Yeah.
happening,
Mm-hmm.
not just in your country but in different parts
Yeah.
of the world right
Yeah.
now. I believe an entire generation
Mm-hmm.
was even lost in
Yeah.
the Ukrainian war.
Yeah.
And I could only imagine how many generations were lost
Yeah.
during this civil war.
Yeah.
60%
Yeah.
were below the age of 13.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is, you have to ask
Yeah.
what happened to the parents.
Yeah.
It's not like they were just like poof gone.
Mm-hmm.
And those are these little things that you have to think about. They're
Yeah.
so impactful.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for taking the time
Yeah.
to tell your story. Again, the two organizations I want to highlight is Yenet, YENET.org, as well as the River Phoenix Center for Peace building. That's don't have the website in front of me, but if you just Google River Phoenix Center for Peace building, you will definitely find it. It'll be the first one on your search engine. Two organizations I do recommend you supporting. Again, Yenet, new organization by Mansuke. He, I think the support is needed. I think you should definitely check it out. And if you can donate, I know the economy times are tough. Maybe it's something we could talk about another day. Is how the economy can trickle down to places like Uganda, and how that unfortunately how the lives they live. I guess we could do that in another episode
Yeah,
virtually or something. But again, amazing organization. I do recommend you checking it out.
yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Mansuk, is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah. Thank you, Mike, for giving me the opportunity to share my my story and my context, and thank you so much for listening. I just want to encourage you. The big ask for me that I always tell people, if you can pray, pray for pray for my family, pray for Yenet, pray for South Sudan, but also find a way to think beyond America and see how you can play a part
Absolutely.
in rebuilding this broken country, and invest in the future of South Sudan. Uh, uh, and that's why I'm in the States, really trying to raise support, monthly supporters who can help us to bring this hope to my brothers and sisters. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is Think It's Think, and this is M.A. Aponte, also known as Mike Aponte, signing out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care.